Hi, I am going to demonstrate project 3 for CPSC 327. I'm going to demonstrate what it's all about. So I'll start here. And also here. First off, I'm going to go to the website and we're going to look at the project itself. If you go over here and look under projects, it's down here. There's 3 parts to it. There's a tester, which is an application. There's a string parser, which is a library, and there's a file IO project, which is also a library. Now, we haven't done libraries yet. And the way a library works is that you have an application, which is going to be a test, and it's going to link to the string parser library and the file IO library. I'll show you how to do it in class. We're not there yet. We'll get there. Now, if you open this up, you'll see that there is a README associated with each of these files, and it's the same README. And it tells you about what you're supposed to do on this project. And it gives you an overview. But I thought the first thing that I would do is give you some notion of what a string parser is all about. And a string parser is strictly looking through a string to find particular values. And you find these values that are between tags. For instance, if I have this string here, info2 len2/info, that's the string I want to parse. Now, what I'm going to want to do is I want to have some pointers that are going to help me to parse this. So I'll start off with, I'll have a pointer that points to the start of the string here. Now, my whole goal is to use this pointer, and it's a character pointer. I'm going to use this pointer, I'm going to increment this pointer to iterate over each of these characters in this string. And what I'm looking for is, specifically, is I want to look for matches. The first thing I want to match is my start tag down here. This is the thing I want to find information between my start tag and my end tag. And my start tag is 2. And my end tag is /2 with the brackets around it. So I want to find everything in between here. So ideally what I want to find is len, because that's between my start tag and my end tag. Now here's how it would work. I'll start off with this, a pointer pointing to the beginning of my string. And the first thing I do is I look to see, I want to increment PS until I match first character my start tag. And when I do that, what I've done is I've potentially found my start tag. So right now, PS is pointing to this angle bracket. And you'll notice down here, my start tag starts with an angle bracket. So here, so what I'm thinking is my algorithm is going to think this is a potential match to my start tag. So what I want to do at this point is I want to compare, and I'm going to compare this many characters, 1, 2, 3, 4 characters, to the next 4 characters in the string that I'm searching for. And if I get a match, meaning the characters are identical, then I found my start tag. Now notice I've got the length of my start tag right here. I've got the length of it, so I know it's 4. So let me quantify this. So as soon as you match first char start tag, you compare the next start tag chars to see if they are identical. So what I'm doing is I'm comparing these 4 characters to these 4 characters to see if they're the same. And so I'm essentially going to do something like this. Let's see, str and compare, string compare. And I'm not sure if that's right. It might be str compare, string compare, ps, start tag, and then start tag characters. So what this is going to tell me is if it's going to compare, I'm going to start from this pointer and this pointer. I'm going to compare the first 4 characters here. Now, if it's equal to 0, I've got a match, and I found my start tag. If it's not equal to 0, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep incrementing this pointer. I'm going to increment it forward. Oh, I didn't get a match, so I'm going to increment it forward to the next character. Did I get a match? No. I is not. Does that match the first character? And start tag? No. And I'm just going to keep incrementing this character, one character at a time. And I'm going to keep doing that until I find a match between this string, what point PS points to, and the first character and start tag. Now, I've got a match here. My first character that PS points to, a angle bracket, is the same as the first character and start tag. And when I do this string compare, I'm going to see that they're exactly the same. Okay, I've got a match. This call returns a 0. So I've got a match. So what I want to do is I want to now, well, I've found my start tag. So what's beyond start tag is the stuff I'm looking for. So I want to scoot this forward the length of start tag length characters, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, till I get to the next character, this one. And then what I want to do is mark, hey, the information that I'm looking for begins right here, right there. So you have another pointer that points there. It begins right there. And now I want to do this over again. I want to start incrementing, comparing the first character of PS, what it points to, which is a capital L, to the first character in my end tag now. I'm no longer looking for my start tag. I am now looking for my end tag. I've already found my start tag. Now I'm after my end tag. So that's what I'm looking for. Is that an angle bracket? No. 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 Is that an angle bracket? Yes. I've matched the first character in my end tag. Great. Now I'm going to compare the length of my end tag, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters, to the next, which my end tag, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters here. That's 5 characters. And I've got the length of it right here and stored in this value. I'm going to compare this many values, that many more, the next that many characters in the string that I'm searching for. And if I get a match, then I found my end tag. All right, so now what I want to do is take this PN pointer, which is another pointer, and I want to point it to 1 before. Whatever PS points to now, I want to point it to 1 before. And now what I've got is, well, I've found my start tag, and I've got a P beginning of the string that I'm looking for, which starts 1 after my start tag. And I found my end tag, and I've got my P end pointing to 1 before where my P end tag points to. Now I've got these 2 pointers, and all I have to do is copy these 2 what's pointed to between here and here. All I have to do is copy that into a string. So I can do an strn copy. I can between here and here, and I've got my string. All right. So that is what a string parser does. You have tags that you're looking for, a start tag and an end tag, and then you're trying to find the words in between your start tag and the end tag. And you're going to use pointers in this project, like I just demonstrated to you, using a pointer that effectively iterates 1 character at a time over your string until it finds the first match in the start tag. Then it's going to compare the next start tag length characters to see if, with the start tag, to see if it's the same, it matches. And if it matches, it's going to set the P begin tag to 1 beyond your start tag. And then it's going to look for my end tag. When it finds my end tag, it sets the P end tag to 1 before the P end tag. And now I have 2 pointers pointing to the word that I'm looking for. And you can just repeat this process over and over again to find all the words in between those start tags. If there are multiple, in between those tags, if there are multiple sets start and end tags inside of a project. All right, so let's go back to here. So I've given you some sample projects. These projects are, well, I'm sorry, there are 3 projects here. There's a tester, a string parser, and a file IO project. They're all, you have to implement parts of each of them. The tester is all implemented. It's going to link to these libraries. So if I go back and I look at, let's say, we'll start with the tester. Well, actually, the stuff that you're going to implement is, first off, the string parser. Inside of string parser, there is this class here. This is what you have to implement. Notice there's nothing in here. You've got to fill this in. All right. I'm going to have to do a relative path. I've got to include the header file for string parser class. Where is it? Well, if you look at the actual project itself, and I'm going to pull up the project. Here is the project. Here's my string parser. Here's the string parser class. The header file is going to be inside of my tester application, project 327, project 3 test. It's right here. Where is it? No, it's not right there. Sorry, it's not there. It is right here. String parser class. This is what you have to actually implement. And you can see that, well, it's in the name KP string parser class, and we haven't done classes yet either, but we'll get to it. It's part of this project is due a long way off because we have to start classes first. Here's what this class does. Well, it's in this namespace. There's the name of the class. It has a constructor and a destructor, which you're familiar with. It has the set tags. Those are the tags you're looking for, the start tag and the end tag. And you're going to have to do a copy of the tags that you pass in. If it turns out that you pass in null for either of these, you're going to have to return this. If either of these that are passed in are null, you return the tags were null. The pointer's pointed to null. Otherwise, you're going to make a copy of these. And we're going to do this using dynamic memory, which is we also haven't got to yet. But we're going to get to that very soon, next week, in fact. Okay, that saves my start tag and my end tag. This is the money shot. This is what does the work. This is going to get data between the tags. You've got these 2 tags that you're searching for. Here's the string that I'm searching for. And when I find the word in between those tags, I'm going to plunk it inside of this vector. So you have to use only pointers except for when you're putting stuff inside of this vector. You can use the string when you're putting it in the vector. There's some verbiage about what you're supposed to do here, what each of these functions do. So read those pretty carefully. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. If they're not, let me know, and I'll correct it. So let's see. There is another function called find tag, which is going to look for a particular tag. And I'll give you some examples of this in a minute. And here I'm holding on to pointers to dynamically allocated memory, which holds a copy of my start tag, and dynamically allocated memory, which holds a copy of my end tag. And these are set up here in set tags. All right, so that's my string parser class. File IO is this project up here, 327 project 3 file IO, and there's the CPP file. Here is the header file. The header file, I'll move it over here. This is pretty straightforward. This is inside of the namespace KP file IO. There's going to be, well, just 2 functions, get file contents and write vector to file. Get file contents is going to open this file, return its contents in this string. That's all. It tries to open a file and returns whatever's in there inside of a string. It's got some stripping out business going on here. It's going to return success if it worked, or could not open file if it couldn't find it. Write vector to file is going to take a vector here, and it's going to serialize that vector's output to a file. And serialize means take the words in the vector and write them one at a time to a file, one word per line. Return success if it worked or could not open file. So let's see, what else do I want to talk about? All right, that's file IO, that's string parser. That's all you have to do. You have to have an implementation for file IO, and you have to have an implementation for string parser class. File IO is going to be right here in Project 3 file IO, and string parser is going to be right here in Project 3 string parser. Now, the reason I haven't opened these files is because they're implemented, and they're implemented for a reason. I want to show you what happens when I want to show you what you should do when things go poorly. So here, they're almost correct, but when I run it, I've changed one thing in it to make them fail. So when I run this, first thing I'm going to do, I've got 3 projects here. Test, file IO, and string parser. When I build test, it's going to build all the other projects and link them together. And when I run it, I'm going to run through all of these tests. And the first test I'm going to fail is 25. And if I fail, what I want to do is I want to debug this and I want to find why I failed. So you can go over here into this tester and you can look under, let's see, source, project 3 test. What's inside of here is, well, I'm going to be reading main. I'm going to take in my command line arguments, which you're going to have to also provide with this project. And then I'm going to start testing things. And so I'm testing my string, I'm testing file IO, I'm testing string parser, and I've got this typical run of the program. And so what I'm looking for is I failed test 25. So I'm going to look for 25 here. What's not in there. So now I'm going to go back to, move that over there, go over to this test file here. And I'm going to look for 25 because that's the one I failed. Find. And there it is. This is the one this is the test I failed. So I'll set a breakpoint. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I don't want you to worry too much. This code all works. I've got these generic types and these templating classes so I can test your stuff. But that's all it's there for. I want to make sure that your stuff works correctly. If you're failing any of these tests here, and you should go all the way through, run through all these tests. If you get them all right, you're going to get 100. But if you're failing, find the test where you're failing, set a breakpoint, close that, run to the breakpoint until you hit the breakpoint here, and then you want to step in. This is going to step in. This is going to step into your code, and it's going to get a result from this. This is going to get my file contents. It's going to try to read from it. Now remember, get file contents down here. Let me pull that back up. File IO. Get file contents. Remember, it returned success if everything worked or could not open file to read. So I set it up so that I'm trying to read a file that's not there. So this is supposed to return that value. It's returning that value. So I can see exactly what's going wrong in my program. So you're going to have to use the debugger to step through your code to see what you're getting wrong according to my test. Now, if you, all right, so you have to do that. All right, now one other thing I wanted to show you. This is the project. Now, this project so far is going to be using a lot of things we haven't talked about. We have talked about command line. We have talked about command line parameters. So far. What we haven't talked about are libraries. That's coming. What we haven't talked about are pointers and dynamic memory. That's coming. There's a project here called Demo Classes Vector Pointer, and it is sitting right here on your course. Let's go down here. Part of project. Yeah, it's really part of project. Part of this project. Pointers, parsers, classes, and a vector. This is going to actually show you how to parse a string looking for a particular tag. So I'm going to open that. That's this project here. I'm going to close all the unrelated projects. And you can see, well, I've got this source file. I've got these couple of helper classes here, and I've got a result. But the thing that you're interested in is this part here. What main is going to do, it's going to follow just what I told you. Here's a string that I want to parse, and I'm going to look for stuff. And I'm going to look for stuff. My start tag is going to be here, vary. Here's my end tag right there, dog. I'm looking for any words, anything between vary and dog. There's vary, and there's dog. And I'm going to get all of this stuff here. All right, so what this is doing, it's telling me the length of P1. So once I find my start tag, that's how long my start tag is. And then I'm going to use this parser class to help parse through and look for these strings. So I create a parser. I'm passing in a pointer to this string. Now, we haven't done classes yet, so some of this parser stuff is going to be a little opaque. Let me chuck it over here and get back to here. All right, so when I create the parser, I'm passing in a pointer to the string I want to search through. You know, if the pointer's no, I'm going to return. Otherwise, I'm going to figure out, I'm basically getting the length of the string plus a terminating null. I'm going to set my, let's see, go over here, and I'm going to set for my parser, I'm going to set my local pointer. What I'm doing is I'm making a copy of the string using dynamic memory. You don't really have to, we're going to get to this. We haven't gotten there yet. Make a copy of it, save a copy of it. And so now my parser has a copy of this string. Here's where I'm going to begin and end. That's going to be tracking the stuff I'm looking for. This is the vector where I'm going to put my results. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this parser class, and I'm going to try to find my first tag using this parser string. And if you go down here inside of my parser and you look for find tag, what this is going to do is it's going to iterate through its internal pointer to the string. It's taking this, well, it's getting the length of the tag I'm looking for. It's getting the length of the string I'm searching through. And then it's going to iterate through that entire string, through every one of those characters. And it's looking to see if I've got a match on the first character of my, what this pointer points to, which is pointing to the string that I'm looking for the tag in, and what my start tag begins with. And if I get a match, here, if it's equal to 0, then, well, I found my tag. I found my first tag. If I don't get a match, then the tag isn't there, and I'm going to return a null. So if I want to find my first tag, all right, I've got my first tag. That's where it points to. That's my first tag. If I found it, I am going to set this character, which is the beginning of the string I'm looking for, set it to the length of my tag plus 1, set it to the next character after my tag. And then I want to find my end tag here. So here's my end tag. That's the pointer to my end tag. That's the string I'm searching through. Now I'm going to pick up right after the character, right after my start tag, and I'm going to start searching to find my end tag. When I find it, if I return that here, then I found my end tag. My end tag is right here. Now I've got a pointer that points to the beginning of the word that or actually in this case, the space that starts after start tag. And I've got another pointer that here is going to point to the beginning of my end tag. Now all I got to do is take this beginning and end and use this class to actually extract that string. I'm not going to talk about this yet because I want to wait until we get to classes and dynamic memory. And then I'm going to, once I get that string, I'm going to push this back, take that string, and I'm going to plunk it back on this vector. So this essentially is a roadmap to find how to find a single tag. You're going to want, or how to find tags. You're going to want to find multiple tags. So this project is going to help you quite a bit. All right. And so with that, back to projects. The only thing you're going to be turning in this project, there are two things. You're going to be turning in string parser.cpp, which is this class right here. That's all the heavy lifting. File.io.cpp, that's just reading and writing to files. And you want to make sure that that's all you're turning in. But what you have to do is you have to first, I think you're going to have to first link one or two of these libraries to this project. Then you're going to have to pass in command line parameters. And the command line parameters are where you begin, the file that you're going to be reading your information from, because you're not going, this has to know where your information is coming from. This is where, this is where my information is coming from. That's the one I want to parse, looking for tags. This is my start tag. This is my end tag. This is my output file. Now, if you're running this, if you set this in Eclipse's debug configuration, you're not going to use a dot. You'll use just a plain old dot. This is being run from the terminal. And the terminal, and Eclipse has a different notion about where it's running from than the terminal does. So if you're running from Eclipse itself and you're setting the debug configuration, you're just going to use a dot. Let's see, what else? A bunch of things to consider down here. And effectively, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your string parser class.cpp and your file reader class.cpp, and I'm going to plunk it on my project, and I'm going to run it. And whatever your grade you get, whatever the output grade is what I'm going to give you for a grade. And that's it. That's the project. So I'm going to stop recording right now, and you all have a good Friday.